On April 30th, 2011, Gail Palmgren dropped off her kids with her husband Matthew and drove off in her red Jeep Rubicon, never to be seen alive again. Her marriage was failing, and she had asked friends to hide documents and money because she was afraid of her husband. And as the facts of the case began to surface, the shock and outrage of the community grew to a fever pitch. Welcome to Fact and Suspicion. I'm your host, Dan, here with my co-host, Ben.
Hello.
And today we'll be discussing the disappearance of Gail Palmgren. Now, this was always an interesting case for me. It's one that my wife has always been super interested in as well. It's a local case for us.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it happened in Chattanooga.
Okay.
So
I'm not familiar with it, so.
Yeah, and when we are close by Chattanooga, so pretty interesting for us. I've driven down the roads that some stuff happened on. You know, I know the area, right?
All right.
So it's very interesting, and it's interesting because I experienced some of the, all the news articles and stuff on the local news about it and everything. So, but let's get on with it.
How long ago did it happen?
2010. Excuse me, 2011 is when she vanished. I'm sorry, I was looking at the beginning of my timeline, but she actually vanished in 2011.
Okay.
So. But all right, let's start out. Now, Gail Palmgren actually worked for Novartis Pharmaceuticals, and she was actually a scientific director there. I'm not sure exactly how high up that was, but it seemed that she had a pretty good job with Novartis. Now, she was married to Matthew Palmgren, and they had 2 children. But in June of 2010, and this is when things seemed to start spiraling for the Palmgrens, she was laid off from her job at Novartis. Okay.
Was she the primary earner for the couple?
Well, her husband worked for Blue Cross Blue Shield of Tennessee. Mm-hmm. It seemed that she made more than him, but I really don't know what his income level was.
Okay.
I don't know what his position was. Now, as I said in the intro, their marriage was failing. And I feel like this may have been the sort of the starting situation for that started causing a lot of stress for them. Because in November of 2010, the Signal Mountain Police are called to the Palmgrens' home because they're having a verbal dispute.
Okay.
Now, the records would show that they're arguing over a missing dog. And, I think Gail thought that maybe Matthew had done something with the dog, and she went and stayed the night with her mom. It turns out the dog was fine, though. The dog came back. It was just ran off for a little while, if you're wondering about that. But you see these two are kind of, it's heated with them right now, right?
I mean, there has to be an obvious loss of trust in the relationship if you're suspecting they did something to your dog.
Oh, definitely. Now, in April of 2011, the Signal Mountain Police respond to another disturbance with these two. This time they were fighting on the road, stopped at a stop sign. And the fight was about, they were going on a trip somewhere, and they're fighting about who was going to drive Gail's Jeep. And eventually Matthew just got out of the car and started trying to walk on home because they were fighting so much. And then Gail called the police. Okay,
so this was like towards the end of the marriage, probably.
Yeah,
like they were fighting about everything.
This is falling apart, right? Now, on April 29th of 2011, the police have to come out again. Now, this is just a week later.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And this time they were arguing, and Gail ends up going to the family's lake house in Wetumpka, Alabama, to stay the night. And, the police report says that she was told to go to a safe place to stay because they've been arguing so much.
So the police told her to leave?
Yes. Okay. Well, that's not uncommon, though,
right.
in domestic disputes, especially when it's very heated. Oftentimes the police want to get someone to leave so that, you can spend some time apart.
Right.
It's not necessarily, saying that anyone's at fault or anyone is a danger to the other person. Just the situation's bad.
Cooler heads prevail.
Right. So she takes the 2 kids and they go to the lake house in Wetumpka. So going forward, April 30th, 2011, Gail is seen by one of their neighbors in her Jeep Rubicon leaving their house. And Susie Button, the neighbor that saw her leave that day, said that she'd seen her be very upset in the days leading up to this.
Okay.
She also said that Gail had asked her to hold on to her passport for her and some cash in her home to keep it away from her husband. And
Did she give any explanation? I mean,
just that she was afraid. She was worried about what was going on with her husband.
Okay.
And other neighbors have also stated that she had asked them to hold on to some personal belongings for her. Maybe as if she's getting ready to leave and wants to take it with her, or we don't know. Maybe she's trying to hide it. We're not sure. Maybe it's because a divorce is coming or she's trying to hide assets. We don't know for sure on this one. All right. Now, also on April 30th, Gail's sister, Diane Nichols, said that on that day she begged Diane to call the police and have them meet her at the home. But we don't have necessarily, I've not found any records of the call. That's just what she told WRCB in Chattanooga.
Do we at least know why?
They were fighting again.
Okay.
And there's something was wrong, but we don't know exactly why that was. Now, on the 30th, that day, that is when she dropped the two kids off with her husband and left.
Okay.
Not sure exactly where she was going, but she was never seen again alive after that point. And then on May the 2nd, she is reported as missing.
Who reported her? The husband?
The husband and her sister, Diane Nichols, both reported her missing.
Wait, did they do this collaboratively or separately?
Separately.
Okay.
Separately, because Diane had not heard from her, and also Matthew hadn't heard from her either in those 2 days. Now, I think Diane called first and Matthew called later to report her. But they both did report her missing.
I asked because I'm wondering if the sister was already suspecting him at this point.
Oh, I'm sure she was. Because they'd been, her family, even the neighbors were all very aware of everything that was going on with them.
Right.
So they report her missing. The police put out a bolo on her Jeep Rubicon, and they just start searching for her.
Okay.
Now, at this point, details start to come out, and it turns out that Matthew has been having an affair with a coworker.
It's not a good sign.
Not a good sign. So this is very bad. And I haven't seen, in any news reports, we don't know exactly when that started. I can't find that information because this affair may have started after their marriage was already falling apart.
Right.
I hate to be, I'm not saying that's right to do that, but it's understandable,
it makes it understandable
when you're so at odds with someone that you would do something like that because you think the relationship's ending. But it's a very bad look at any rate.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, things start to get a little stranger at this point because just a few days later, on May 6th, Matthew files a motion for exclusive use and possession of their home because she's gone missing.
That's strange.
It's very strange, isn't it? It seems like he's wanting to move on already, and it's been 4 days since he reported her missing.
Is there anything in particular he wanted to do that he couldn't without that order?
Well, it turns out he was wanting to sell the house pretty soon.
That's what I was thinking.
They'd been having some financial issues, so he was definitely wanting to sell the house. I'm not sure how soon he wanted to do it, but I guess he wanted to get the process.
So his wife
moving.
is going missing how long ago now?
4 days.
And he's already thinking about selling the house?
Yes.
Wow.
And he's also told the police that she had been suffering from bouts of depression and had been very paranoid in the days leading up to her disappearance.
Could anyone else corroborate that she had depression?
Well, I don't know about the depression aspect, but they definitely corroborated her paranoia because she'd been asking neighbors to hold on to stuff for her and everything. And she'd been telling, her family members about how badly everything was. So it definitely seems like depression, but I don't know that anyone corroborated depression, but definitely the paranoia is definitely there. We can see that. She had, just before her disappearance, had changed PIN numbers to the bank accounts with a lot of money in them. Now, it did turn out that Matthew had been taking money out of her accounts because he had gone through a lot of his own money, and she had more money than him. So
he had another bad look.
Yeah, a lot of bad looks for Matthew here. Right? He's cheating on his wife. He's trying to sell the house,
and he's stealing money from her.
I don't know if you call it stealing. It was a joint account, but it was her money.
Oh, okay. So it was joint. Okay.
Right. He couldn't have taken it out if it wasn't a joint account. Right. But she did change the PIN number on it because she was the primary, from what I understand.
Okay.
As things go forward in the following days, the Hamilton County Police Department steps in to assist with the search with Signal Mountain because Signal Mountain's a pretty small police department. So the county is in there searching the rural area, well, the rural areas, the wooded areas near the home, on the mountain, things like that.
Right.
They can't find any trace of Gail or of her red Jeep Rubicon. Now remember that red Jeep is very, I mean, that stands out.
Right.
The red does.
Do we know what the police's working theory is at this point?
At this point, they really don't have a working theory. I'm not just going to say they didn't suspect Matthew, but there's really no evidence, any hard evidence of foul play at this point. Right. So they never named a person of interest or anything like that. They never said that they suspected foul play, but they definitely looked at it from all aspects. I mean, they did a lot of searches. They looked into everything very thoroughly. As we keep going, they're using divers and sonar to search the Tennessee River. And they're searching the Suck Creek area, trying to find a body somewhere, and they can't find it anywhere in the area.
Did they search the home?
Yes, they did search the home. Now, however, though, there was a bit of there's some more strangeness when the home's searched.
Okay.
The home isn't actually searched until June 18th, and Matthew Palmgren will not allow a search without his lawyers being present during any searches.
Okay.
Which is again really strange.
As a legal matter, it's not a bad move. It's probably the smart play, but it doesn't look bad. Great.
And this already, there are already news articles about this, and the entire Chattanooga community is turning against this man.
Are the articles accusatory?
The articles aren't accusatory, but they put all of this information out there, and it definitely paints him in a bad image. They don't state anything, right?
Right.
And the word on the street, and if you go back to the Facebook posts at the time in these groups, everyone thinks Matthew's killed her.
I mean,
obviously.
He's putting off just about every red flag imaginable.
Right. Now, on June 7th, before that search, he loses his job at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Tennessee. Now, his attorney says that it's not related to the disappearance of his wife. They do state that it's because he's having an affair with a coworker. But really, it was probably because of the disappearance of his wife.
Right.
Because everyone's sure that he killed her at this point, right? So they'll go ahead and they fire him.
The dude has done everything but Google how to get rid of red Jeep Rubicon at this point, you know? I mean,
and he wouldn't be surprised if we didn't find that at some point right now, you know, because all the evidence is just leading straight toward him.
Is kill wife illegal? Sorry.
You can't make me crack up like that in the middle of this. That's wrong. I hope the man was not that stupid. I've seen interviews with him. He didn't sound that stupid, but
I bet you $10 there's an autocomplete out there for that exact one too.
Oh, I would say so. Of course, some people probably just search that as a troll, but
that's a good way to get on a watch list, though.
Oh, it really is. And I would never want to end up on the list like that. Like, my wife has teased me that if she ever gets depressed and decides to off herself, she's going to try to make it look like I did it. Like, she told me once that if she thought about if she ever needed to, she was going to shoot herself with a handgun, but tie a lot of helium balloons to it so it just float away. I feel like I shouldn't be telling this. You can see we have a dark sense of humor, but at any rate.
Well, at least that's out in the open now in case it ever comes to pass.
I've always wanted to put that out there just in case. You know, that does happen at some point.
Well, make a podcast and cover your bases at the same time, Dan.
Oh. At any rate, going forward, friends and family are putting together money for rewards for any information about what's happened. I don't think Matthew's involved in this because I think it's her friends and family that all think he's guilty and they're looking for information about him.
Right.
Obviously. So that might look bad too, but there's definitely a conflict of interest there.
Yeah, of course.
Now this is sort of an example of how the news is not necessarily accusing him.
Right.
But Local 3 News has an interview with Gail's friend Arlene Durham, and Arlene is quoted by them saying, "If we can find the Jeep, we can find her, and I think he knows what happened to the Jeep and what happened to her, where she's located." You don't hide behind a criminal defense attorney. Your girlfriend doesn't hide behind a criminal defense attorney. Your mom doesn't hide behind a criminal defense attorney if you have nothing to hide.
Fair enough. Said every prosecutor ever.
Right. But this is sort of
I mean, though, to be fair to the media, right? I mean, which is not something I'm generally want to do. He's acted so suspiciously that simply just putting the facts out there would make almost any reasonable person think he murdered her.
It does. And I'm just trying to say that I'm trying to point out that I've seen none of the local news coverage from this where they actually accused him.
Okay.
I'd like to point out there. I've seen them say he was suspected.
Right.
And I've seen interviews with people that definitely said that, he did it. But I've never seen them say that.
Is suspected and did is not just substantively different. It's the difference between a lawsuit and not.
A very big lawsuit, actually. As I said, the Palmgren home is finally searched on June 24th. Like I said, he had just agreed about a week earlier to this with lawyers.
Okay.
But they're finally searched it on the 24th. Also, the 24th of June, Gail's brother and sister file a request for a restraining order against Matthew. And they're trying to get a court-appointed guardian to take care of the children, to keep them away from Matthew. They feel like he could be a danger to them because they think he's killed their mother. Right. Moving on into July, they're also searching all of their properties. There's not just their home on Signal Mountain. They have another vacation home in Wetumpka, Alabama. They're searching their family storage unit. They're searching everything, looking for information. So at this point, they're obviously suspecting Matthew.
Yeah, of course.
Because they're looking for evidence, even in their storage unit, right? So they're obviously after him at this point.
I mean, again, hard to blame them.
As I said, they've never stated that he is a person of interest.
But it's clearly they're acting as
But they're very much acting like it. They're looking into this man. And on July 25th of 2011, the FBI actually steps in and begins to assist with this.
Okay.
I think because of the possibility of going over state lines in Alabama.
Right.
That's the FBI's jurisdiction here. I can't find confirmation of that, but it seems to be the case. Now, in September of 2011, Matthew Palmgren is finally able to put their house on the market.
Okay.
However, he won't be able to close any sale on it because Gail's name is on the deed. So until her disappearance is resolved, no sale can actually be finalized.
Right. Okay.
So it seems he's trying to sell it, but if no one can solve this, he's not going to be able to. Or at least until the police, say that they come up with something, right? Mm-hmm. They're going to file a report to close the case. Now, moving on to October, Matthew Palmgren has been calling the police saying that Arlene Durham is harassing him. Remember what Arlene said a few minutes ago?
Yeah.
Now, finally, though, in November, they're able to start doing aerial searches. The reason they haven't done this yet around Signal Mountain is because it's a very heavily wooded area. And until the leaves start to fall, aerial searches aren't going to do anything.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah. If just so people understand, Signal Mountain, if you're not on a road or like basically at someone's house, it is covered in trees, very thick trees. So you're just not going to see anything other than houses and roads, basically, looking for this. However, on December 1st, the second aerial search, they find the Jeep.
Really?
Yes. It is in a steep, heavily wooded area off of East Brow Road. Now, just so people understand, the East Brow Road's on Signal Mountain, but I should probably explain what this is. Signal Mountain is not a mountain like you're thinking of maybe the Rocky Mountains, right? It's not super high. This is in the Appalachians. It's actually part of the Cumberland Plateau. So it's very flat on top, but the brow of it, which if you anything that says Brow Road or in one of these mountains around here, it's right on the bluff, right? So basically they find the Jeep off the side of the bluff of the mountain.
Okay.
All right.
Does it look like it fell?
Yes, very much so. It just come down the mountain, flipped several times, but they're not able to find Gail.
Wait, she's not in it?
She's not in it. However, her body is found very soon thereafter. She was ejected from the Jeep.
Oh, okay.
And they're able to, start to close up this situation. So this case that's looked like this man murdered her for ages, and some people still think he did. Think he disposed of her off the side of this,
right?
Off the side of the bluff. but it seems to be that she's had some kind of accident and run off the side of the bluff and died, which is actually in this area not unheard of. That happens quite a bit. These roads can be very dangerous on a bluff, and if you swerve or something, you could very well go off very easily.
Right.
Especially if there aren't any guardrails or trees right there at the edge. As it turns out, though, what actually happened in this case was she hit a boulder and took the boulder over the side of the mountain with her.
Ooh.
And here's the really strange thing to me. Now, I wasn't frequenting Signal Mountain or anything at this point in time. I'd been there before, I've been there after that. But this particular road, that boulder had been there forever. And apparently when she went missing, no one noticed the boulder was gone. But they were able to reconstruct that she had sort of swerved and she overcorrected. And when she did overcorrect, she went into that boulder and took it off the bluff with her.
Kind of acted as a ramp.
I wouldn't say it acted as a ramp, but it shows how hard she hit it that she took a boulder with her.
Yeah, true.
Right. Then the Jeep flipped several times going down the mountain. She's ejected. She wasn't wearing her seatbelt, but the police stated that they're sure she would have been killed instantly when she hit that boulder, even if she had been wearing a seatbelt rather. They found no evidence of foul play, and the police actually stated that they're quite sure that no foul play was involved. There was no evidence that her car hit another car at all. They were able to track her cell phone data from where she was at the top of the mountain, and then just a few minutes later, she was at the bottom of the mountain.
Oh, okay.
And the entire time, her husband was at home with the kids. It was just right after she'd left them.
Okay. So
Matthew was pretty much exonerated from this. Now, there are still people that think he's guilty.
Always going to be people who think that.
Think that he hired a hitman to send her off the bluff. And obviously...
again, he sent up just about every red flag imaginable.
He did. He acted terribly in this situation. But I'm wondering if maybe he didn't act that way because he knew he was innocent.
Yeah, but you should probably be cognizant of how things look anytime you're in this sort of situation.
I completely agree. And I think he learned that when he was fired from his job.
Yeah.
Right. You have to be careful of these things. But, this is obviously, we had police reports, dating back a year before this happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Where they're having so much trouble.
It looks like the kind of thing where it just progressed from domestic abuse to murder.
Right. But what a big theory is that Gail's mental health was declining from the time that she was laid off from her job. That was a big stressor. And then she finds out that her husband's been cheating on her. And it's just so much on her, and they're fighting constantly that, she probably wasn't quite as stable going forward. I'm not saying that she drove off the mountain intentionally by any means.
But she could have been speeding just because she wasn't.
She could have been speeding because she was so upset from a fight they'd had or something along those lines.
Do they suspect she was speeding?
Yes. Okay. Yes, they do. Because,
that's what it sounded like.
Right. Because she hit that boulder so hard and went off the mountain. You would think hitting the boulder would stop you, right?
Yeah.
But not in this particular case. Now, some people think this is a bit of an entertaining theory. They think that Gail was trying to maybe quote unquote gone girl him.
Right.
Like she was telling all her neighbors this stuff leading up to it to make it seem so suspicious on him that then if she were to, kill herself in this way and no one found her body, that they would automatically think he did it and he would go to jail for it.
Most people don't think like that outside of books, though.
No, and I honestly don't think she meant to kill herself. Because, like I said, the police, and I'm not sure exactly what evidence they found of her overcorrecting into this boulder. I never found that exactly. I don't know if they found some skid marks that were still on the road, or possibly they could just tell by examining her tires the way that she was sliding before she went off the road.
Right.
I'm not sure. But they did say they're able to determine that. So it doesn't seem to me that she meant to drive off the mountain. It was just a terrible accident. But this is something that, haunted this man for a year.
Yeah.
Right? And, people were trying to take his children away.
He brought so much of it on himself, though.
He did. But I do feel bad they were trying to take his kids away from him.
Yeah, of course.
Right. I'm not saying he didn't deserve a lot of this, though, because he seemed to put his wife through hell. Absolute hell.
And then trying to sell the house 4 days or trying to at least get the paperwork moving for it.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. It's, it's beyond, it's beyond being irreverent of the dead, right? Yeah. It's ridiculous. It almost seems like he's, I don't know, like a sociopath a little bit. Like he just doesn't care. And I guess that would definitely make people think that he's murdered her again, right? Like I said, there's still so many theories that people think that somehow he had something to do with it. But to me, he's been exonerated. Right.
People often conform their opinions to the evidence, particularly after they've already established a strong one.
Exactly. And no one wants to walk that back. I'm sure Arlene Durham, who was so strongly against him, she's probably still convinced that he had something to do with it. Right. Because this woman seemed to be more convinced than her family that Matthew had something to do with it. But it seems that he didn't. At least with cell phone data, the fact he was home with the kids, we know he was home with the kids at those times. Mm-hmm. He couldn't have been there when it happened. I mean, I suppose he could have hired someone to go run out in front of her in the road so she'd have to swerve. But seems like a
really bad plan.
Very, very far-fetched theory to me. I do want to say, I'm not trying to exonerate this man of being a bad person, though.
Right.
Obviously, he cheated on his wife. He put her through hell. And then he immediately after she vanished, he's trying to sell the house. Like he knows she's dead already. I guess he probably may have suspected she was so upset that she may have gone and killed herself. I don't know. Even though it doesn't appear that she did do this on purpose at all. But it's a sad case. But it's a media circus that I lived through. It was a local thing that I think is very, very interesting. And we've actually got some other local cases that if you guys like this one, like the attention we bring to this one at least, and have like my own opinions of it because I'm from the area. We could do some more local stuff if you'd like us to.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
We've got a local murderer named Carrie Willoughby that's super interesting.
All the free Carrie signs.
Yeah, that was so interesting that we've been talking about doing. So she's a little bit more famous than this case, but yeah, we're glad you came back and listened to us again. We're glad to be back a second week in a row, or a week and a half later.
I mean, we did the last one on Friday. Yeah. It's not our normal day, so.
Right. So, but we're glad to be back. We're glad you guys are coming back to listen to us. So we'd really appreciate it if you could tell anyone about our podcast. If you enjoy it, leave a comment. Even if you don't like it, leave a comment and let us know what we could do better, right? Like, subscribe, anything like that. We appreciate you guys. And we hope to see you again next week.